Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Rabbi Cosgrove, thank you. I want to start by telling you how much I appreciated the Devar Torah, the acknowledgement that the importance and the work that AJC does, the way that we all view the world, is both tribal, but also reflecting the importance of the other tribes we share this world with. That said, Rabbi Cosgrove, in light of recent events, I'm just warning you, I'm very tribal at the moment. It is a privilege for us to gather together for Kabbalat Shabbat, to join together in peace, for many of us to join with friends and family for Shabbat dinner. It is, sadly, a privilege that has been lost for so many of our family in Israel. This is the sixth Shabbat in our world that feels like it will never be the same. On Shabbat, on October 7th, and now 5 Shabbatot since, our beloved Israel has been at war. We have felt the crushing grief, the incomprehensible sorrow, the pain of 1,400 lost, the pain of thousands injured, the pain of the families of 240 hostages from dozens of countries, some of those families have traveled with AJC to the United Nations, to Washington, to the EU, and Paris and Berlin, simply trying to make sure that the world acknowledges them and works for the release of their loved ones. I traveled to Israel earlier this week with AJC leaders. Our own President Michael Tickner is here this evening with his wife Karen. We traveled to show our solidarity with the Israeli people, to offer our support. We met with families from Kfar Aza, a small kibbutz where Hamas terrorists slaughtered 62 members of their community, 10% of their community, where they had 5 funerals a day for 2 weeks, and where 18 of their neighbors were taken hostage. It's been a month of Shiva, we heard. You need a new language to describe what happened, we heard. Karen lost both of her parents. Ofer's 33-year-old son, Avi, was killed protecting the community. Mandy's 27-year-old daughter was taken hostage. She said, I've seen what Hamas does to people. Why wouldn't they do that every day, she worried. And we met with Vered, whose husband and son and mother and nephew were murdered. The pain was crushing. But Avidor, who lost his in-laws on October 7th, told us that, he said, the people who built our community are insanely strong. Alon Schuster, the member of Knesset, who was formerly the mayor in the South, looked at us and said, I've been optimistic my entire life. It will take time, but the houses will be full of young and old again. Even in their suffering, we are reminded that this is the best of Israel. Their commitment to defending their homeland, to defeating Hamas, to fight, one told us, to live in honor and dignity in our homeland. We experience the resolve of the Jewish people, Liod Am Chofshi B'Aretzeinu, to live freely in our land. President Herzog looked at us when asked what we could do to be helpful. He looked at us with steely resolve, and his answer was one word: everything. You should do everything to help. Ron Dermer told us that we must destroy Hamas. He said we can't have a pogrom in the state of Israel. October 7th broke that promise, and we will do what we need to, even if the whole world is against us. Who could be against Israel defending itself in the face of this barbaric attack? Surely, At a moment that demands moral clarity, no one could stand on the side of Hamas terrorists. No one could defend 260 young people killed at a music festival or the taking of hostages, certainly not the depravity that we saw. Unfortunately, I don't need to tell you, we've seen exactly that in our own country, and especially and sadly on our college campuses. Last Shabbat, I joined over 200 Jewish students at Tufts Hillel for Shabbat dinner after spending the day with student leaders at Harvard who are struggling on their own campus and an administration that has not done enough to protect them. As I approached the door at Tufts, I saw some protesters. My head swiveled as I heard them tell someone why they were there. We want people to know the truth about our presenter tonight. I couldn't resist. Go on, I told them. Please tell me about the presenter. That's when everything happening to Jewish kids on college campuses came together for me. It was the moment to confront these protesters on the 4 big lies that they tell that have fueled so much hatred, whose purpose is to get rid of the one Jewish state, that have been used by professors celebrating Hamas, by students attacking Jewish students simply for supporting Israel. These are the lies that we must all work to expose every day on social media, in newsrooms, and especially for the college administrators who too often fail to act, whose moral ambiguity at this moment creates an environment of fear for too many Jewish students. That's what AJC has been doing at this moment. That's what we all must do. What are the lies? I want to share them because we all need to have this knowledge to defend our kids, to defend our people. First is the lie that from the river to the sea is somehow a call for the liberation of the Palestinian people. It's not what Hamas and its predecessors mean when they use those exact words as a direct threat, that they will drive Jews into the Mediterranean Sea. This is not a call for peace, nor for a two-state solution. It is a call for one state free of Jews, the ethnic cleansing that will be necessary for them to accomplish that. Next, we have the lie that intifada chants is somehow an innocent call of resistance, as if we don't recall what happened in this century during the Second Intifada when 1,000 civilians were killed on buses and in cafes and at Passover Seders. The call to globalize the Intifada, as some are now chanting, is to encouraging more of that, not just in Israel, but around the world. Today, we now also hear the lie that Israel is a white settler colonialist enterprise, which dismisses the fact that Jews that we have had connections to Israel for 3,000 years, through the Romans and the Greeks and the Babylonians and the Crusaders, the Ottoman Turks and the British, until the UN created Israel. It also ignores the fact that more than 50% of Israelis are people of color from the Middle East and North Africa. And it calls Israel a colonialist enterprise on whose behalf, we have to ask. Invoking the anti-Semitic idea of an international Zionist conspiracy is exactly what they're doing. And finally, we hear the lie over and over on our college campuses about genocide in Gaza. Now, for this lie, perhaps the most pernicious of them all, the anti-Semites get a twofer. First, we have the modern-day blood libel that Israel is trying to wipe out the Palestinian people, obscuring the fact that Israel is acting in a war of self-defense against an explicitly and truly genocidal enemy. And that Israel is doing what every other country in the world would do to defend itself after the atrocities of October 7th. And by obscuring and twisting the definition of genocide, they're demeaning and distorting the very experience of the attempted genocide of the Jewish people in the Holocaust. There's one goal in all of these lies. It's to delegitimize Israel and the Jewish state We've seen them spread across college campuses like wildfire, sparking antisemitism and violence against Jews. At Harvard, we've seen Jewish students be physically intimidated and physically assaulted. At the University of Pennsylvania and GW, we've seen vile anti-Semitic messages projected on campus buildings. 30 blocks north of here at Columbia, we've seen signs saying, "Resistance is not terrorism." And a few hours upstate from here at Cornell, we saw a professor announce that he was exhilarated by the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. And a student threatened to bring an assault rifle to campus to kill Jews. Right now, the IDF is fighting on the ground. They're waging a physical war against a genocidal terrorist organization in defense of the Jewish homeland. They are fighting to free the more than 230 hostages that are being held in Gaza. We in the United States have an obligation to wage a different kind of fight against these lies, against this narrative of hate that has inundated our society and our universities, against the well-organized and well-funded effort to completely delegitimize the state of Israel and call for the destruction of the one Jewish state. The way that we fight back, and this is my message for all of us, the way that we fight back is with truth and the moral clarity that this moment requires. We all have a responsibility to make sure that our university presidents, our business leaders, our neighbors, our coworkers, elected officials, to make sure that they all understand what these lies are and the harm that they do to the Jewish community. And tonight, I will tell you, we have an obligation also to lift up the actions of people who get it right. When Columbia University realizes that the presence of Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voices for Peace on campus puts Jews at risk and shuts them down for the semester, that is an example that others should follow. We need to show who is behind these lies. We need to show the destructive narrative and shine a light on their goal not to advance justice, never about justice, equality, or dignity for the Palestinian people, but to destroy the state of Israel. Hamas's charter makes clear its goal of Israel's destruction and the massacre of Jews. That is the evil ideology that we must fight. I've been inspired my entire life by the fortitude and courage of the people like my father and so many others who fought the Nazis in World War II. I've been thinking a lot about that dark period in our history, particularly because yesterday was the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht, when the Nazis killed 91 people, vandalized 7,500 businesses, burned over 1,400 synagogues, and sent 30,000 people to concentration camps. But it's not the destruction of those synagogues or the Nazi efforts to exterminate the Jewish people that I think most about these days. It's the responses of the courageous individuals who defied the Nazis to shelter Jews. And it's the response of great leaders who stood strongly and bravely to rally their people in the face of fascism and genocide, who saw the dangers of the crimes of the Nazis and who spoke unequivocally and clearly about the need to oppose them. In one of Winston Churchill's greatest speeches, he said, "We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. To wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark, lamentable catalog of human crime. You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word," Churchill said. It is victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory, however long and hard the road may be. As we gather here at Park Avenue Synagogue on Shabbat Chayei Sarah, let us pray that Israel will defeat the Hamas terrorists, however long and hard the road may be, and will forever be the safe and secure homeland of the Jewish people. And let us strive to ensure that the United States of America, where our Jewish community has flourished for generations, will continue to provide the opportunity where our Jewish families can continue to thrive in safety. But most of all, Let us show the same resolve and the fierce determination shown by our brothers and sisters in Israel to make our voices heard among campus leaders, among business executives, among government officials across America and around the world. If the past month has taught us anything, it is that we cannot sit back and expect anyone else to stand up for our community in this moment of peril. That's on us. So let us stand together with one another, unified with the global Jewish community and with Israel. I mentioned we were just in Israel earlier this week. Everywhere you go, there are flags flying across Israel that say, Biachad ninatzeach, together we will win. Together we will win for Israel, for the Jewish people, and for peace. And let us say, Amen. Thank you very much, everyone.